Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Workflows and Espressos. I am so excited that you're here. For those of you who are watching on video, I'm wearing glasses and the reflection in my windows is so bad that I need to do a side profile. How do you like the right side of my face? Anyway, I have been trying to wear my glasses this week because I took fall in the shower last weekend and I hurt my head. So I've been wearing my glasses to try to make my head feel a little bit better. That is how old I am. Okay, so hello. That is my update for the week. The other thing that I want to talk to you about. So last week we talked about an example of unreasonable hospitality, and I talked through a company that I love, Element. This week I'm experiencing the opposite as a consumer. And I want to share this story because I think it's such a different experience than I have with Element. And I think we all have these incredibly frustrating customer experiences as we go out in the world and we buy things. And as works in the customer service industry, I'm of course always trying to make sure that we have the best customer experience possible. So here's a lesson in what not to do. As we know, because I talk about it no less than 5 times every single episode, I am getting married in a little less than 6 months. So what that means is I am currently buying everything on the internet for my wedding. And some of those items, I'm having a family dinner the night before my wedding, which I'm so excited about, and a welcome party with my fiance and I's guests, all of our closest friends and family. I think I've said this, but we're getting married in Puerto Rico. Anyway, so all of our family's flying down to Puerto Rico, and we're having this celebration the night before our wedding, which is going to be very special and meaningful and just gives us time to celebrate with our friends and family. And I have been on the hunt for a dress to wear to the welcome party. So I found this dress online. I promise you this story relates to customer service. Okay, just hang with me here. I found this dress on the internet. And it is the most expensive dress that I've ever bought in my life, aside from my wedding dress. But I'm like, this is going to be one of the best nights of my life. I'm going to do it. It's a beautiful dress. I've worked hard. I'm going to buy this dress. So I read on the website that the dress is non-refundable, which I completely understand. And I buy it anyway because I'm thinking okay, if it comes in and I don't like it, they have a lot of other things that are very cute that I can buy on the website. So it comes in. And the dress that I ordered has a skirt version of it that comes with a matching top. The company sent me the skirt on accident without the matching top, which is fine, right? Accidents happen. I email them and it takes a while because I think it's made to order, handmade. It's not, yeah. Anyway, it requires a lot of beading. So it comes, it's wrong. I email the company, hey, I completely understand. I accidentally received the skirt version of this dress. Do you think that you could send me the actual dress version? And they say, absolutely, we'll get it in the mail tomorrow. But it takes a long time to get here, which is why I was concerned. So I just said hey, I know this took 3 weeks before. Is there any way you could get it to me a little bit faster? I'm trying to narrow down what I'm going to wear the weekend of my wedding. So they say, absolutely, we're going to send it to you tomorrow. A couple days go by. I haven't heard anything, haven't received a shipping confirmation. So I email them, hey, just following up with you. Have you sent the dress? And they said, no, we haven't. And we need a video of the skirt that you received with the barcode showing that all the tags are still on it. And we need you to ship it back to us before we send you anything. And I'm immediately frustrated by this because the skirt that they sent me, this is a very beaded item of clothing, right? It is heavy as hell. This is a 10-pound, not exaggerating. You could do arm curls. I could do arm curls with this dress. So I'm concerned about the cost. So I respond and I'm like, hey, totally fine. I can send it back, but are you going to be reimbursing me for the shipping costs? I have to send it to England because they're based in the UK and it is a 10-pound dress skirt. So they respond and they said, oh, no, but we can send you a gift card. And at this point, I'm pretty pissed, right? Okay, you sent me the wrong thing, which is fine. I work in customer service. I understand that people make mistakes. I have another story to tell about next week. But For me to send it back, you're still, number one, holding all of my money hostage for the dress that I paid for. That is the most expensive piece of clothing that I've ever bought in my life, other than my wedding dress, which I haven't even paid for. And so technically it is the most expensive piece of clothing I've ever purchased. So you have all my money. You sent me the wrong thing. Now you're requesting that I send it back to you at my expense before you send me the thing that I have paid for and ordered and didn't make a mistake. It was like so frustrating. So I respond to them and I'm like, hey, a gift card is like not what I'm confused. Could you please just reimburse me or send me a shipping label to my original form of payment? Like, I've already spent a lot of money with you and I haven't gotten what I ordered, which was at this point over a month ago. And then I'll send it back to you, whatever. And also, like, could you please send me the dress? Like, yes, I'll send the skirt back to you, but it doesn't change the fact that you still have the dress that I paid for and bought over a month ago. So they respond and they're like, no, we're not sending it to you until you mail us this back. And like, we're not going to reimburse you. I am livid at this point. So right before I recorded this, I did send the most stern customer service email that I have probably ever sent. I mean, no, it wasn't that nice. It basically is like, this is insane. And I'm going to dispute this with my credit card company if you don't send me the dress that I ordered, which I feel really guilty about, like having been berated in the position that I'm in over the past 10 years at some point or another. But it just has given me a really, I don't know, like I ordered a similar dress from a different company that was actually a little bit cheaper, but still quite expensive. And they like rolled out the red carpet. They sent the dress like FedEx, that I had to sign for it. They sent like all this material, like marketing material in the box. And I've just received two very different experiences from these companies. And I don't know, it's frustrating as a customer and also puts me on the other side of all of our customers that have ever been frustrated with us or any business that I've ever worked at. And I don't know, it makes me think differently about how I treat customers, whether it's a homeowner or a guest. And just, you know, when you pay money for something and you're so hopeful for it and you look forward to it for such a long time and it's so meaningful to you and then it doesn't end up being what you expected, which I think is the experience of so many of our guests. I understand that it can be really disheartening. I feel that way myself right now. And so it's definitely given me empathy, but it has certainly been the opposite of unreasonable hospitality that I've experienced. But if you guys all think that I'm a Karen and insane for being frustrated by this, please write in and let me know and I will completely back off this company. And if they never send me the dress and all the things, like if we continue going on this Ferris wheel that we're on, I will share the name of the company because I will be writing a mean review. And that is my first 8 minutes of the podcast. Let's get into it. Okay. So today I want to talk about guiding employees through change. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart, as you've started to realize, I'm sure, listening over the past couple of months. I like to share things and episodes that are close to my heart and at things that I've experienced personally as an employee and as an employer, and what it means to me to be treated well and feel happy and fulfilled in the career that I'm in, and also try to provide that same thing for the employees that report to me now and depend on the work that we do for their livelihood. So I've been in a position a couple of times where I have had to terminate employees that had a great impact on the business and was distressing, rightfully so, to other employees that had relationships with them or worked in the same department. I've also worked for companies that have been acquired, and I have worked for a company that has acquired other companies, worked for several companies that have acquired other companies, right? Like I've experienced a lot of change since being an employee, particularly since being a senior level employee over the past like 5 to 8 years. And it has given me, there are a lot of things that I've done wrong, and there are a lot of things that I have done right or that I have wished were done when I was an employee, looking to my bosses, or things that my bosses did that I am so appreciative now. And I want to talk through change that is very impactful to your company and the best way to really guide your employees through that change and make sure that they feel supported and that you are making the right decisions along the way. So sat down at my desk yesterday, was very prepared, and I started to think through what are the best ways to guide employees through big changes such as terminations or restructurings or acquisitions. And the first thing that came to mind is bringing employees in at the right time. And I have made a mistake here a lot of times where I have brought employees in a little too early. That tends to be where I could improve. I tend to want to tell things a little bit too soon because I value transparency so much. And I think that I've made a mistake here. I think there's a happy medium, right? I think you can bring employees in a little bit too late, and you can also bring employees in too early. And when the example that I'll use is we were having a restructuring that I knew was going to impact one of our employees, but I hadn't really quite figured out what that restructuring was going to look like. I just knew that it would be quite impactful to this one employee. And so before I'd really figured out what this looked like really at all, it just was an idea in my head. And I almost wanted to talk through it with this employee and see their thoughts without understanding that it was directly impactful to them. So their first thought would be whoa. I don't care about the company. What does this mean for me and my role and my growth in this company? And I told her about this change. And I remember her being whoa, what about this and this and this and right? And all the anxiety that I had already felt that I almost wanted to share with her, she immediately started feeling it and started going through this okay, well, have you figured out this and this and this? And what does this mean for me? And what's my growth? And I didn't have the answer to these questions. And I remember feeling regretful that I had brought her into the fold too soon. I had wanted to do this thing where I was transparent. I had given her the opportunity to be a part of this conversation, and it really bit me in the ass at the end of the day. And it taught me that telling employees too fast about structural changes, particularly when they impact them or terminations or acquisition, whatever it is, big changes to your company. If you tell employees too fast, it can be almost as harmful as telling them too late. And you have to be mindful that first and foremost, someone is working for you so they can make money and feed their family and feed themselves and create a living that allows them to pay their bills, right? And that is going to be their main point of concern before anything else. And you, especially if you're in the point of comfortability, right? You have job security, you're not worried about your position, you know what you're getting paid, you know how you're going to put money and food on the table in the next week or so, right? You already have the answer to those questions and your basic needs are met. So when you tell someone something that is potentially scary and could make them feel insecure in their role and their job too soon, then they don't have their basic needs met. So they're not even going to be able to help you connect the dots that you're looking for because they're worried about themselves and their basic needs. And yeah, I think it's just knowing when to tell employees about changes at the very right time. And it is a very thin line that I feel as employers and managers, we have to walk this line all the time. And I have certainly made many of mistakes in the past. I've also told employees too late who have felt frustrated and found it more difficult to make it through this change because they found out a little bit too late. And so, yeah, I don't know. There's a happy medium, and that is certainly one piece of advice that I have for you. The second thing is that this is mostly a list of things that I've done that I regret doing. Taking employees' opinions and thoughts and feelings into account is incredibly important, but it is not as important as moving your company in the right direction. And I feel almost wrong saying that out loud because I value employees so much, but I know at the end of the day, you have access to a bigger picture than your employees do. You just do. You're running this business, or you're an executive in this business, or you own this business. You know where it needs to go, which pieces are moving where and when, and you may not be able to tell someone exactly what's going to be the best for them at any given time, right? Nobody truly knows that as well as everyone's individual self, but you do have an understanding of who's going to fit where best and what is going to move your company in the best direction possible. And I think that that's very important to keep in mind as you make decisions that could cause employees to feel disgruntled and frustrated. As a self-diagnosed people pleaser, that is very hard for me to do. And I often want to tell people what they want to hear. And it goes against my basic nature to make decisions that are unpopular, even when I know that they're the right decisions. But I can assure you that if you are being guided by your own core values and the strategic direction that you've set up for your company, it's the right decision, even if it hurts some feelings. We can talk through how to get there, but don't make a decision just to keep everybody uncomfortable. My old boss, who I credit pretty much like 95% of my success to, she always used to say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it has quickly become one of my favorite mantras in really like life and not just in the working world. And I think it's so important, right? Like, don't do everyone a disservice and sacrifice your own discomfort just to make sure that everything is fine and you're meeting the status quo, right? Like, it's okay to be uncomfortable. And I know that it sucks. Trust me, as a people pleaser, it really is uncomfortable for me, but there's never been a situation where I have done something that I felt was important for the department or the company or myself, even at the cost of feeling discomfort or causing someone else discomfort that I've regretted. I've always felt better afterward every single time, which, should make me feel better about or less nervous every single time I have a hard conversation, but it doesn't. Okay. So the next piece of advice that I have for you is to understand the difference between growing pains and toxicity. There is a line here too, right? Like, I think that there is a healthy level of discomfort and growing pains that are experienced no matter what kind of big change you have in a company, whether you let someone go that's been with your company for a long time and is going to be an unpopular decision, but the right one, or whether you are acquiring a company and it's going to disrupt things for your existing team and give them a little bit more work for a little while before you figure things out, right? Like, it's normal for your team to have a reaction to those things, but there is a healthy reaction time and then there is a toxic time. There is a distinct difference between the two, and it really depends on your team, and everybody knows their team differently. But I have come to realize that when I have had to terminate employees in the past, I always believe in a healthy mourning period and adjustment period where my door is open. I'm happy to talk about it and give context and help employees through this hard thing that's happened. And then there becomes this period, and it almost always happens, where I notice some chatter and some sour faces and bad attitudes, for lack of a better term. And that's the toxic period that we want to steer clear of, right? And defining the difference and being firm with employees is important, right? Like, I think it is so okay for you to feel some discomfort during this hard time. And I understand that this company looks different right now than it did when you first started working here. But I want you to trust me and know that we're moving in the right direction. And I want you to make sure that you are being guided in a direction of clarity and not anxiety or sadness through the transition of this employee out of the company, or through the transition of a bunch of new employees in the company. If we've acquired a business, it doesn't matter, right? Like, start having conversations like those with your employees, particularly if you have a company big enough to have a senior leadership team. Allow those employees to kind of guide and set a culture for those other employees, especially the ones, we all have the ones on the team that you start to notice may or may not have a stronger reaction. And keep an eye on that and And make sure that you're nipping those issues in the bud as soon as they start to come up, because the second that one person starts to become toxic about a decision that you've made, and less growing pains, more toxicity, I promise you it will spread and it will become a major morale issue. And you want to take care of those clearly and directly as soon as they start to happen. But of course, always approach with curiosity, which is one thing that I try to do whenever facing those difficult conversations. Okay. So my next piece of advice for you on my handy dandy notebook is, when you are making changes to your company, you are not entitled to explain every detail of why you've made a decision. 1000%. Sometimes you're going to make a decision and not want to have a discussion about it, and that is perfectly fine. But there is value in providing context. And it is case by case, of course, and you know your business and your decisions more than anybody else. But I do find that when providing context, it has helped soften the adjustments that it takes for those structural changes. And what I mean by context is, say that you are deciding to cut a part of your company and 2 employees are being terminated and one of the employees is being moved around. And you're absorbing this department into another department because it wasn't making financial sense for your business. Okay, I don't think that you need to sit down with your entire company and say, we sat in rooms and this is exactly what we talked about. And this is the exact finance breakdown right? Like there's a time and a place for that. And I preach transparency all the time, but I think that context can go a long way. Rather than like a full breakdown with a bunch of spreadsheets and a play-by-play of every conversation that you had to get you to this point in your decision-making process, I would say, hey, we are consistently taking a hard look at every department in our company and the impact that it has on us, not only financially, but operationally. And we had to come to the hard decision that this department was difficult for us to manage operationally and very difficult for us to support financially. In order to provide more opportunities for employees down the road when it comes to growth and overall development, we need to make sure that we are as financially secure as possible. And this department wasn't going to get us there. And this is such a hard decision for us to make. And we know that it is impactful, but please trust that it is going to move our company in a better direction. That is context. That isn't every detail of every conversation that you had, or the fact that maybe these 2 employees you didn't like that much anyway, right? It's context, and it allows employees to feel a little bit part of the decision versus just kind of an afterthought. So the next thing is, bring a select few of people into your decision making when you feel the time is right, particularly if it impacts them directly. Again, this is very case by case. There are some decisions that you don't want to make via committee, but there are some that would be very helpful to make through a committee. And I think that this is important, and why building a trusted leadership team as you start to get larger is helpful. Or even if it's just you and your partner, your business partner that run the company, and you have one other person on the team, right? Like, know when to bring that person in, which kind of goes back to the first point that I made. But also, I think that it's important that you decide who you want to be in the room. If there are employees that you feel like aren't going to be helpful for the decision-making process, or are going to be a naysayer no matter what decision you make, there's a laundry list of employees that you can probably think of, like, hey, maybe I wouldn't want them in the room when I'm going to make a decision that's going to be pretty impactful and they're already very nervous about change, versus the employees that are going to challenge you, which I think is important no matter what, like hiring people that are different than you, which we talked about. Oh my gosh. If you're watching the YouTube video, I just put my thumb up, and the recording studio does the thumb thing where the AI, where it reads you. I don't know if I like that. Anyway, not everyone has to be in the room with you if you don't want them to be, but make sure that the people that are going to push you and help you and create a good strategy for whatever big decision you're making, make sure that they're with you And it's also a badass learning opportunity for your employees. Again, I've had multiple bosses who have allowed me to be in the room during conversations that have shaped the direction of the company. And I think it is one of the largest reasons why I'm in the position that I am today and even have stuff to write on a piece of paper and guide people moving in the right direction. It's because I had leaders that gave me a seat at the table and allowed me to ask questions and be a part of the challenging period when making a decision. And I valued that so much myself as an employee and love to do that now as someone who is running a company. Which leads me to number 6, my final point, asking for feedback. So I think there are decisions that you can make that after all is said and done and some time has passed, it's great to ask for feedback from your team, whether in the form of a survey or at a team meeting or through an email. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that your employees feel like they have a platform to connect with you and a way to ask questions and feel heard. Even if the answer is not something they're going to want to hear, I do think, again, it depends on the decision that you're making. I don't think that you could fire someone then be like, okay, company, what do you think of my decision to fire this person? But I do think that there are changes you can make. Hey, we've implemented this new department or this new change in the way that we are doing this process. And I want some feedback on it. How's it working for you? Do you feel like your day is easier? Do you feel like your day is harder? Do you feel more fulfilled? Do you feel like we are working as efficiently as we possibly can? Whatever those questions look like to you, ask for feedback and then actually do something with the feedback that you get. It's so important. Like, these are the people on the front lines who are actually in the day in and day out every single day. And they're the ones who know the business arguably better than you do, particularly if you have a larger company and you're standing a little bit further away in a more strategic position. I think asking for that feedback is so crucial. And let's talk through, let's go through like TLDR, the end of the segment, which I like to do. Too long, didn't read, but technically it would be listen on a podcast. So if you heard nothing else from me today, if you're experiencing some change, if you're growing a lot as a company, quick 6, all right? This is all you got to remember. Number 1, bring people in at the right time. Number 2, take employees into consideration, but make sure you're doing what's right for your company above all else. Number 3, spot the difference between growing pains and toxicity. Number 4, when you acquire or fire or grow or stop growing, employees want to know why. You don't have to give every detail, but context helps, okay? Number 5, bring your trusted team in when the time is right and share in the decision-making with them if you feel that it's right. And number 6, ask for feedback, always pivot, always be changing and better and willing to take critique and grow from it. I think that this is like the fastest that I've ever recorded an episode, and probably it's because I hurt my head. So maybe there's been like some part of my brain that's had less bloopers and less mess ups this week. But I next week am very excited to talk about firing customers, clients, owners, you name it, doesn't matter. Firing people that give you money, how to do it, why to do it, when to do it. And I cannot wait to tell you my story that goes along with that episode. But thank you so much for listening. I hope you have an amazing week. I know that it's going to be very pretty in Jackson Hole this weekend. So hopefully I do some rafting and I will tell you all about it next week. Thank you so much for listening. Make sure that you are liking, that you're subscribing, that you're sending this episode to all your friends, all your family, everyone you know, and that you are writing any questions you have into workflowsandespressos.com on the Ask Meaghan tab, I think. God, I don't know. Okay, just interact. Thank you guys. Bye.